So if everybody can quiet down. T. Beazle to the stage. So this was a pretty cool event, and it wouldn't have been possible without all of our sponsors. So I just want to take a quick moment to thank those guys. First and foremost, Toro showed the fuck up. Like, Toro family's in the house. We got JP as a judge. We got the family here. We got the fucking trophies here. Like, huge shout out. So big appreciation to Toro team. They've been so great to work with. They're definitely going to be hopefully working with us again in future events. Shout out to Hashtag. We loved working with the machine. We loved using it. The 25A was very cool. I think it's a cool home unit, and comparing to the 65T, really cool comparison. The Press Club, big shout out to the Press Club. Press bags, rosin bags. Huge shout out to Access. Access didn't really, usually bigger trade shows, not really a smaller type, but Eli showed them the way, and I think you guys got a lot of value there, and I think they did too. So I'm super stoked about that. Big shouts out to big shouts out to White Ash Group. That's my brother's company. I'm super proud of what he does. If you need to know what you're worth in the industry, it doesn't charge $1. Just call him, tell him what your skill set is, and say, how much am I worth in this state? He'll tell you, and that's valuable for you to use when you're going to negotiate whatever the fuck you're going to do. So get more information so that you can get papered up more. Mood mats. Mood Mat's been rocking with me. We got awesome mood mats. The team's so great to deal with. They're going to continue to support, and we're going to continue to support them. We're going to have mood mats for sale right now, as well as during the after party. What else? We have Small Circle Hash. Huge shout out to Small Circle. They have been, since the event started, huge supporters on IG, and they're in the community, so it matters a lot, and it means a lot. So big shouts out to Small Circle. Big shouts out to Hash Club for all the gifts in the gift bags, as well as gifts to the speakers. Steve, we appreciate you. Huge shout out to Little Lake Valley Seed Co. That's friends supporting friends. That's $100 seed pack. So big shouts out there. And absolutely last but not least, huge shouts out to Dragonfly Earth Medicine. Their presence here has been felt and definitely appreciated. So Josh Kelly, we love you. I want to give a special thanks to Mark, the Curator Co., who I've put under tremendous amounts of stress leading up to this event and made jump through several hoops, and he's done so with absolute professionalism. So him and Mike back there, Mike Babbitt's been fucking phenomenal guy in the back and helped out with the editing, and it's just been great to work with those guys. It's a time crunch, and one of the most stressful things about Moth is getting this video produced, and I often question doing it, but I really do think it provides value, and we're going to continue doing it and continue letting it stress us out. So huge shouts out to Curator Co. and his team. Woo! I want to thank the Citadel for hosting. This is a super beautiful space. It's been great. I was blown away. It's been perfect for this event. It's been exceeded my expectations. And I want to thank all the speakers and judges for taking time out of their busy schedules. It's been really cool to get to know all these guys and be able to create these events and bring them together. And I know these guys are all super busy and very much doing other things. So let's hear a big round of applause for all the speakers and all the judges who came out. I want to thank Addison Demora. I wouldn't be here doing Melting of the Heads or doing the things that I'm doing today without the help of Addison. Addison put me the fuck on, and I'm going to be forever grateful to him. So might get tired of hearing me thanking him, but huge shouts out to Hova. The team, Chemo at the front, and Tyler and Kite and Aiden. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I've been watching them. They're fucking unbelievable. They're about this life, and they want to be here, and they're hungry, and they want to help, and they want to move. So huge shouts out to the team. I could not have done this without you guys. I fucking appreciate the fuck out of you. Lastly, Adam and Hannah. I had a rough time with this the last time, and having your guys' support was fucking awesome. It was really cool. So I really appreciate that. All right, I want to talk about the winners and what they're going to be receiving before we jump into the marketing panel, because we've worked really hard to put this together. So if you guys are going to get a chance to come up during lunch, but you're going to see that each winner, first, second, and third, receives their own trophy, as well as a customized banger, Vortex 20 mil. As the gift from Dosa, we have one. The other is being made. So both first place in Moth and Rosin will receive this beautiful baller jar that would flex at any sesh table in the world. So both first place Rosin and Melt are going to be receiving that. First place Rosin and Melt will get 100 free custom mood mats. Yeah, I'm going to move. First place Rosin and Melt are going to get 100 free custom mood mats. Second place gets 40% off their 100 order, and third place gets 30% off their 100 order. We've also had Mystic Timber hook it up. So there's custom one of one tools that are engraved with not only Moth NYC, but also the category you placed in, as well as your place. What else did we get you guys? Full 32 gal bag set from our friends at Press Club for first place, and a full 5 gal bag set for second, and some insulators for third. We have custom printed edibles from our friends at Astronaut Club with your winning place on them. We've got a 5-bar LED grow light for each of the first place winners, valued at $900 each, from our friends in Canada at Eco Grow Tech. We've got a couple donut holes from our friends at Hash Club, and a swag pack from our friends at Access Rosin that we're going to throw in as well as a saber from Focus V and a few more goodies. So we're super fucking excited, guys. This marketing panel is stacked. I'm going to do some intros, and I've got questions for days, as you know, but let's take this where you guys want to go. This event is to provide value to you guys. So without further ado, we're going to just jump right into this panel. So let's give it up for these guys. Woo! All right, so, we need mics. Perfect. So first and foremost, I want to welcome Jersey Mike to the stage. La Comedy, Wookerson. If you don't know, you should. We're super excited to have him on this panel, and I think this is a brain trust that provides a lot of value. So what I'm going to do is check. What I'm going to do is have everybody go down the panel and introduce themselves and give a brief background of their history, and then that's going to better kind of provide the grounding for the conversation moving forward. So let's start with Adam from Mission Hill. Give it up for Adam.
Hello. Yes. I am Adam from Mission Hill. You guys have seen me several times this week. So
that's it. That's all you got for everybody.
I'll do his. So Adam has built a very big online presence. And,
I could have done that intro for you.
No.
Hand it off next time. I don't even have an intro for myself, really.
If you've missed my 2 other intros, then I'm Adam from Mission Hill Melts. We've been making hash in New England since 2015, and we like fucking memes.
And been able to accomplish a lot with them in a short amount of time. So we'll get into that later.
Way better.
Adam's got to settle in.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Yeah.
My name is BK. I'm a native New Yorker from Brooklyn, New York, and thank you, Jameson and Adam and Hannah, for having me be a part of this. I got to judge the rosin, and I'm excited to sit on this panel with my peers, especially Jersey Mike, now that I could finally call you that, because Jameson did already. So, all right, I hope everybody enjoys.
How's everybody doing today? My name's Taylor T. Beazle. I'm the president and CEO of the Mendocino Native Naturals Corporation. I'm also the owner-operator of Trippy Chili, Little Lake Valley Seed Co., and Black Market Donuts.
Click the button.
I've never used this dab rig before, so. No, my name's Addison Demora. I grew for 12, 13 years and then was smuggling and then got into, I don't know how, but got into opening the first cannabis analysis lab in the country, Steep Hill, and then was like, fuck that, and got into extraction, which is the same thing as, like, if you do analysis or you do extraction, it's the same exact thing, but you quantify one of them, technically. So I was like, fuck all these lying-ass testing dudes. I'd rather go into extraction and get high. And then I went in that direction and did some corporate work, and then was lucky enough to form 800 Pounds Mantra, which is a management consulting company. We do all Achieva Chews production, Green Hornet production in California. We manage Grandiflora Genetics in California. And then we do Pyramid Pipeline, which is a supply chain solutions for solventless makers. It was really just an idea. We have a ton of breeders that are friends, like Taylor and other guys. And then we have a bunch of manufacturers that we know. And then we want to eat. So we were like, let's figure out a business that kind of solves some of these problems. So we created Pipeline. And then probably about 3 months ago, Scott Deppy from Mothership came in as a partner and invested in Pipeline. So Pipeline's owned by Scott, myself, and Kevin. So it is a cannabis and a hash company. Pipeline's funded by Mothership. So we get pieces from Mothership, we sell them, we put that into building the company. So it's kind of a cool concept. And it keeps it in hash, it's from glass. So we do that, and then we do Legends of Hashish with Marcus, Bubble Man, and we've done that for two of them so far. And then the other thing is, anyone who's here, come up and let's talk hash and stuff, because this is a qualifier for Legends. And then the reason why I get to come too is to kind of meet makers and check out their stuff and see about inviting them to Legends as well. So, but that's all the shit that I do. And I think these guys are going hunting at some point. So
I'm wearing camo too.
We did not
we're
plan
all going
this
hunting
outfit.
for terps.
Fuck, that's a resume, huh, cutie?
Shit.
I'm a fucking Canadian dude that stole other people's SOPs. I have nothing to do with Mothership or anybody cool.
We just bought the shit, right?
I can't afford cool clothes. I opened way too many businesses in a failing economy.
You have a mothership. You
What's
have
that?
a mothership.
I have a mothership. Thank you to the black market. I don't know what else to say.
Give it up for the black.
Let's give it up for the black market. Let's
markets
hear it.
matter.
Follow me on Instagram.
Black markets matter.
I have no idea. So I'm literally a Canadian dude that like trained in Colorado and California, stole their shit. If you've ever heard of a company called Resin Extracts, REZN,
Alex.
this dude, Z Terps, Z Face, Z Skittles, fucking Z everything cool. So they made these little coins, and I was lucky enough to know does Poof own it?
What's that?
Poof, is he own Resin? Is it his?
Alex owns it, yeah. Poof.
Okay, so yeah. And then I stole that, brought it to Canada. Everybody's like, oh my God, this guy makes coins. I'm like, thank God they don't know about the USA. And then I write on shit pretending I'm a graph artist, and people fuck with that too. And then on to somebody that has real shit to say.
How do you
Give it up
follow-
for Hasho. That was fucking awesome.
I don't know how to follow that, you know? Jersey Mike, a.k.a. Lock Comedy, a.k.a. Wilkerson. You can call me anything you want. I've been around for a long time before anybody knew the stuff that I did. I was behind a lot of scenes, hash, events, otherwise. Maybe some of you know, but shit, now I just do a lot of artwork, graphic design, meme artist, you know? Yeah. Raised two beautiful girls. That's kind of what I'm more into these days, you know? And, I'm here with a esteemed panel of colleagues, if you will. We're ready for any questions you have.
Awesome. We're going to get right into it because there's a lot of fucking ground to cover. So, I want to start at the beginning and then we're going to open it up a little bit. For the guys who were there on the early days of 215, do you think that in California, Prop 215 was the catalyst that lit the spark to move forward that marketing wave that has become so big and important over the last decade? Who wants to take this?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was the spark because it was the first organized 100% move forward. Oh, we're all going to move forward together kind of a thing. As much as medical was just, and I look back on it now as like the greatest fucking days ever. Like you could just grow weed and then bring it to the dispensary and they gave you money. And then you like ran to your car and fucking went back home and grew more weed. And then you fucking came back and kept doing it. And you're like, no one's killed me yet. And I'm still fucking here. But then it got more competitive and you had to brand that weed. And branding's a story. I don't know if you know that, but it's just a fucking story. And the more true the story is, the better the story is. And sometimes if you're the maker or you're the guy that was growing it, you're not great at telling stories because you don't fucking talk to anyone but the guy at the grow shop. So it kind of evolved and you started to see brands like West Coast Cure and other brands kind of come out. And those guys are still killing it. West Coast Cure just had their biggest day ever. I think probably like a week ago, like largest day they've ever had in sales for their company. So, they're growing and they're getting bigger. But the point is that a lot of companies went from very unorganized and fighting the whole way to branding and building these companies. And, it sort of was the gateway that just sort of sparked it all. And it started with medical, so.
What about you? Oh, go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say, when I was out in 2015, where I started, squishing flour and got my first real taste of the medical. Like, flour was, for the most part, always coming in those pop tops or bags, but it was the concentrates that I saw that were really, like, branded, like, companies with their, this was the shatter days, so it was mostly, like, coin envelopes, and those were, like, the OG Mylars, and no one really talks about that, but...
Those dudes are pissed because they don't make any money anymore. They're like,
Yeah.
where did all the business go for our fucking...
I know. Yeah, R.I.P. to the coin envelope days. But that was like...
You got to bring them back, bro. Fresh press.
Yeah.
Where's your fresh press?
There we go. Bring it back to the trap. Yeah. That was the other thing, too. Everything in Cali was in
PTFE.
half gram, so you buy a gram, you get 2 envelopes. It was kind of overkill. But yeah, that's where I first saw that, and I wanted to start that when I got back to Massachusetts. We first did the coin envelopes, so 215 definitely was the start of the branding and the marketing for sure.
Shout out to those coin envelopes. They fucking...
So, I'll add this, man. We're in New York City right now, so I feel like there's a moment that Prop 215, you were leading into like recreational cannabis, that there was a flood. There was too many of us. How do you separate yourself? We're in New York City. It was all about a story. Back in the day, how did you get more for your weed? You grew sour diesel. It was kind of like only one option. And you heard people telling stories to each other about how you got that eighth or gram or pound. And it was like an arm and a leg. You had to deal with Joe and how much he charged you. And he invited 2 people to buy the same 10 pounds, and all these kind of stories that are now part of like lore and history. That's essentially what we started taking from when we started trying to build brands in like a legal market or a recreational market or a black market, a legacy market. It was, how do you separate yourself? What's the story that's going to walk in the room before my product does? What's going to happen when I walk in that room? Are people going to already know what's in my bag? That's what you all want to have. You all want to walk in this room, and as soon as you pull your jar out, people don't have to introduce each other. It's kind of like, I know what that jar is. I want 10 grams, And if you did your job successfully, that's what it was. But back then, it was a story. It wasn't labels. It was, it still is. It's still the story is what's selling your product. And so I feel like the one thing that gets weird is when everybody moved away to just making more colorful shit, a different label, a different sticker, like going too crazy. And it was like, just focus on the story. What was your thing? Like, that's really what pushed us, was that we had to find a way to separate, all of us from each other,
When did you see that happening? Like, what time frame did you see that? Did you observe that?
I think it was like, somewhere between 2015 and 2020. In those 5 years, you went from, everybody kind of being able to grow weed and sell it at any dispensary to dispensaries got picky. And if you rolled up with turkey bags versus, you know, jarred up things or coming in already like with samples that were really nice to look at, you've got guys that are growing living soil, amazing flower, but when you show up with a turkey bag or a Ziploc, like nobody wants to look at it, you know? And then it became Mylars, and then it became, you know, putting like, you know, getting glass jars and going into, you know, the Myron jars for hash, you know, and it became kind of like you wanted your packaging and your branding to like say the conversation that you didn't want to waste your breath on. I care about my product. I take pride in what I do. I want you to buy my product. Like, you know, you wanted to, and that really happened somewhere between like 2015, 2016, 2017, as you saw more and more people just flood the market with brand new products and SKUs out the ass, you know?
Before I move over to BK and touch kind of on the East Coast, I want to hear a little bit more from T about his experiences growing up in NorCal and the trends that he saw and what his observations were as a boots on the ground from NorCal.
I mean, I grew up in the middle of the Emerald Triangle, so I grew up multi-generational weed farmer. So none of the people I grew up with were selling to dispensaries. I mean, we had people coming in from the East Coast buying large amounts from my family. So there was no branding.
Shout out to Connecticut.
Like, there's no branding, labeling, marketing. You know, there's meeting people in town at Safeway, bringing them up to the ranch, you know, and then them leaving town, telling you I'll be back at this time. I didn't see marketing and labeling to cannabis till I got my driver's license. And I wasn't allowed to get my driver's license till I was 18. Because the rule of the family was you get it at 18 because they can keep you for 2 more years from 16 to 18 and you wouldn't leave and you'd still dig holes and plant plants. So
Slave labor.
when you got your driver's license at 18, I hit San Francisco, and I remember going the first time to LA alone. And I went into these 215 weed stores, and we're talking like 2005, 2006.
LAPCG.
And I see all this like branded cannabis, and I'm like, where is this from? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, is there like factories that make, you know, like Snickers candy? They just make weed and they just like ship it out to you? Or like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, they're called your neighbors.
And they're like so confused. They're like, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm from the Emerald Triangle. They're like, oh yeah, it's a lot different down here. And so I just like put the connection to it. So that's how I started. Like, you know, after I won the first couple Emerald Cups, I decided like I gotta create a story, a brand. I gotta create like a character. You know, my name's Taylor, but T Beasel's like this character, this like thing I created to be able to have a marketing point to sell products. You know, like it's like a story behind this person. You know, and so like that's what I did because I learned it going to LA, and I was just like, this is so brilliant, all this creative packaging, these things, you know, and some of the like packaging kind of would tell you a story as you would like flip the jar and look at it, you know. It was really, really cool.
So BK, being involved for just as long time, but on a completely other side of things, what were your observations over those last few decades, and what did you see?
Decades is a long time. A few decades is my whole lifespan. So you know,
You've been smoking. How long you been smoking weed?
It's been a more recent. It's been a more recent
How long you been smoking
observation
weed,
for
though?
me.
How
It's
long
been
you
a.
been smoking weed?
I mean, yeah, I've been smoking weed forever. It's not
Okay,
you know.
well, a couple decades.
So you know, you guys are talking 215. I'm an East Coast guy. I haven't been going to California and you know, participating in that type of relationship with
No,
you know,
but you
the
bought
industry.
You bought Supreme clothes.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of that for sure.
For sure.
But
They have good
they
packaging.
They say what's going on in New York now is like kind of comparable to those like early California days, and what we see in branding here in New York now is fucking people will try anything. So it's like I've seen every type of bag to die cut bag to jar to shaped jar to
Memes.
What memes? Yeah, definitely. You know, it's in New York. It's like the weed doesn't even sell. You know, nobody's selling weed. They're only selling a brand. You know, the biggest people in New York are the people that have done the most branding, the most marketing, or you know, have that stamp from a connoisseur or somebody who's, you know, like a pioneer in the space. So that's really what pushes the needle here in New York and maybe on the East Coast in general, because even down in Philly and, you know, south of there, over here in Jersey, it's all kind of the same thing, you know, and it's a lot of West Coast brands getting more representation in New York and the East Coast than like a lot of guys that we have over here that are working just as hard trying to brand their shit and telling, you know, like an actual story versus East Coast guys bringing in West Coast brands and just carrying on a story that's already been created.
Adam, I'm coming to you next. I saw you shaking your head earlier. I know you're very opinionated on the matter. You're from New York.
He's just a head shaker in general.
He really
He's
is.
high as fuck.
I
We
wanna-
asked him how high he was, and he said yes.
Shouts out to Bernie Terps. Whatever I dabbed before I came up here was fucking slapping. So
Shout out to Bernie.
the one thing I was gonna say though is that we were originally in Massachusetts and we've recently moved up to Maine. And what is kind of nice about Maine is kind of like the opposite of what BK kind of said about New York, about how you're mostly buying brands and the weed kind of is like a consolation prize. Maine is like the opposite. Branding means almost nothing to people up there. They are just like, give me the best shit smoking. They don't want Myrons. They don't want boxes. They don't want fucking side wraps. They just want best stuff they can find smoking for the right price, which is cool. That's why we like it up there. It's a real like connoisseur market, but you know, it's also different. Maine's been as medical almost as long as California, so it's like a much more developed. But
Do you see do you see New York or the East Coast avoiding some of the pitfalls that California went through, or not so much?
no, it's like right on track, unfortunately. But they've got some things better. I mean, at least they've got like consumption lounges built in. It seems like they are trying to get the small local people licensed up, the hemp farmers who are getting fucked by the market, first people in line for the micro licenses. So I think they have a lot to figure out, and it's probably going to be a shit show. And like New York is kind of like Cali, where you can do a lot of things as long as you pay a lot of money and a lot of tax revenue. But it's going to be tough. But BK is right. Like right now is the golden hours. Like you guys are in the Wild West. Things are crazy. Go to Washington Square Park. People got tables and selling mids.
Nobody's smoking Washington Square Park.
No, the weed is terrible there now, unfortunately. But
Now I'm gonna go do it.
So,
Jail.
Mike, you've done a lot of collaborations with hash makers. Or Wickerson. You've done a lot of collaborations with some hash makers, and I wanted to talk to you. Do you think that that's something that we're going to see more of going forward to sort of create brand awareness?
Absolutely. You know, I'll show you something right now. It's not to plug my homie, but
Let's see it.
but you know the Anwar Carrots Fidel collab, okay?
Fidel.
So this is a representation of hash running over into every other market. That's streetwear. That is a culture of, I grew up in apartment complexes in Jersey, and if you rolled around with a glass pipe, you were a crackhead. So there is a massive part of our culture that is now bleeding into other cultures, inner city cultures that don't like torches, okay? The collaborative efforts between, three entities, a hash maker, someone who pushes flower, and also pushing their brand on a streetwear aesthetic, collaborating with Anwar from Carrots, who's behind more brands than you guys know. That's a crossover thing that you're gonna see spur a crazy movement. Nick Terche, who owns Diamond Supply, he has a cannabis company. He's opening a dispensary in San Francisco soon. He's one of the biggest marketing geniuses in the skateboard industry, and not just to toot his horn for him, but Berner came to him to get advice about how to start cookies and how to put cookies on the map, and it was Nicky who pretty much gave him the blueprint.
And they make the clothing.
And then make the clothing. It's a true story. And a lot of these guys that are making a lot of this clothing and a lot of this gear are looking into cannabis. They're looking into this culture right now because they see what we're doing. They see the stickers on the jars. They see all this stuff, and they're like, we can make something sustainable. We can add something to this culture. And they also are from this culture. You know, I grew up going to skate spots and like hanging out at sneaker spots because that's where the good weed was, the good sneakers were, and the good conversation was. And it's the same now. And now it's getting into more mainstream stuff. So you're going to see a lot of these people. And the reason I do a lot of these collaborations is, you know, many of you may not know, but I was a big hash maker. You know, I worked with Brandon from Third Gen. I helped throw the first Ego Clash. You know, there was a lot of things that I did behind the scenes that I never looked for. I didn't need my name to be out there. That's why my face was never out there with my Instagram. You know, you didn't know who was behind it because I didn't need you to look at that. I wasn't trying to be a celebrity. I wanted my art to shine. Just the same way I was with my hash. I didn't care if you knew I made it, just as long as I saw you at the table session on Third Gen hash that I helped press. You know, like, there's a thing about, you know, moving this culture forward with streetwear and all this stuff connected because it's always been connected. It just wasn't cool to say it. You know, nobody was cool to wear a tie-dye until like a bunch of guys in streetwear started wearing it. And then it was like, oh, now you're like, you know, on trend. You know, it's like, dude, people on the hill have been dressing like this for years, but now all of a sudden it's trendy.
Taylor. Okay.
You know, because all of these cultures are merging. You know, I mean, it's like,
Dude, no.
T. Beazle knows, you know.
Dude, Kaya has fucking tie-dye jeans on right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
No, and you know what?
I didn't even know they made those fucking things.
Yo, Kaya
I
could
would
go.
fuck-
He could go to Paris Fashion Week right now, and nobody would bat an eye.
No.
You know,
No.
and we're in a culture right now where like our stuff, everything that we do, like the cannabis industry, the hash industry, is bleeding over into all these scenes. But then you're finding out that the leaders of all these companies are smoking your product, and you didn't even know it. You know, when I go to Nikki's house, he's got like jars from this room, and these guys in this room have no idea that that's what's happening, and so they're plotting, they're coming. They're already putting hundreds of millions of dollars into brands that have no cannabis in them, and they're gonna meet with one of you guys and have you in the jar. You know, and so like it's coming, the crossovers are happening, the collaboration is happening. The big reason, like I say, that I do a lot of this stuff with my friends in the hash game is to get them ready, is to try to get them to see like Professor Sift. Change your logo. Get that thing to be more like a Lacoste branding. People don't need to see words. They're gonna see that logo. Don't deal with all the crazy slap happy packaging. You don't have to change the color every fucking week. You don't have to put a crazy whole little picture and a whole bunch of memes. It can bring you a lot of attention, but doesn't always bring you dollars. Something with longevity, like you can learn from streetwear, from skateboarding, where these things have been lasting for 30 years.
Well,
know?
it starts with brand ID. So
For
it starts
sure.
with getting that. And as a phenomenon in cannabis, and you've all seen it, you could take, I'll bet right now that P. Diddy's brand fails, okay? Just like Jay-Z's brand failed. You can take the biggest name and bring it into cannabis, and we tell them to fuck off. And the problem is because in cannabis, the product has to be good. We could talk about marketing all fucking day, but you can have the greatest design. You can bring in fucking Virgil. You could bring in everything. You could bring in dead people, living people, whoever the fuck you want. And if your product sucks ass, shit does not shine. Shit won't shine. It'll never shine. You know, brown hash, unless it was like 1984, it's not appreciated, right? But even nowadays, you're starting to see brown Afghani hash come back because we have ways to smoke it and we can enjoy it and we can put it into things. But the problem is that if what you have sucks, you're fucked. And a lot of these guys come in and they go, I'm so-and-so and my name will draw. Okay, you got brand ID. Where the fuck is the product to back up that brand ID? Because if you don't have it, everyone's laughing at you and you fail. Jay-Z money, whatever fucking money you have, thank you for your money. Go fuck yourself. Bring me some good shit. And that's how our industry works. And you have to have the branding, but you better have good fucking product. And that hit and miss, you know, all the guys that are here that are successful, they're stacking failures on top of that success. Fucked up batches, fucked up purchases, fucked up things, all these obstacles, and you keep stacking them up till you get noticeable and your product gets better. So it's always about the trend, you know, that whole progression to really good product. And like, I look around the room and I see a bunch of guys that have done the work to find the genetics or create the genetics and master that and master the post-processing and everything else. So you have to have great product and you have to find that stuff. And that's what's great about hash. You have to start with the genetics. It's good to be friends with breeders. It's good to know your shit, and you have to propagate, do selection. You have to isolate stuff. You have to grow it out, and you have to know how to cull, because that's the other thing guys have a big issue with. Like, we're at a judging competition. You have to cull shit, which means no. Fuck you. You're not good enough. And it's just how it works. And some people will hold on to shit for some weird reason, and then they don't hear the fuck you until it gets really loud. Like, I got a bunch of, in California, we have a bunch of guys who are like, oh, solventless is the thing. So they spend all this money, they run out, they build a solventless lab, they buy a bunch of fucking material that no one wants, that was price point, and now your menu is Kush Mints, fucking Fatso, fucking grapes and cream. You got these things in there
You're
that are
in Canada too?
No, I'm just saying. And because what's happening, what we're seeing is a ton of things that are viable or were viable that haven't left yet. And that's why we made Pipeline, to be like, that stuff's not great anymore. Let's bring new stuff in. Let's keep regenerating and revitalizing the supply and put breeders on and work with guys so that stuff can get out. So it really, branding's important, brand ID is important, but the fucking product has to be good. Don't at me with no trash ass shit, because now I'm, you put, you could be honest too, like be honest with people. If someone comes to
There
you
is so much trash shit that sells so much more than fire shit. You got to be kidding me. It depends on the market.
price
for real.
point. Now
It's
you're talking price point.
That's a connoisseur market versus an uneducated market.
But you're talking
though.
price point.
This
Because
is
if the
this
price,
is New York.
If
What-
the
we have
price is
nothing to base
right,
this on. Like this is like we're so new. To
we
this
know where
rec
our weed
market.
goes in California. It fucking comes here, right? So we understand that.
I
The
will.
price point, when pounds hit $400, what happened in New York? Fucking weed was everywhere. It's all coming.
Weed
like,
has
how much-
always been everywhere in New York. There's no lack of places to get weed in New York. I mean,
Where-
this is like
Where was that weed in New York coming from? I'm wondering. Was it in a
we get weed from
triangular
everywhere. I mean,
area
there's
in
lots of
California?
stuff in New York. Like there's East Coast weed. Like don't forget. Like there's plenty of East Coast weed
Okay.
that came down to New York.
I'll do
You
this
have
real quick.
Great growers from Vermont in the
There's
room.
more
you have
weed
great
being
growers
grown-
from Maine in the room.
Vancouver.
There's more
There's
weed being grown in
tons
Fresno.
of other weed
It's
out
coming
there.
from
Fucking New York.
Vancouver.
Yo,
Beasters.
you
What's
Maine
a
guys.
Beaster?
There's
Fresno.
Maine guys in the room.
It's
How
coming
long have
from
you been bringing
Beasters.
weed down for? Like BC buds, we had
There's
Beasters
more
here.
weed being
Come on.
grown in
Like,
Fresno than all of New York.
That's fine. And the best weed, in my opinion, is grown in Fresno. So I agree with you.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it's fine.
It's still Fresno.
But
Don't get me wrong.
You're saying that the product is always important, but that's to a connoisseur market.
Because
This is
your
an
market has not
uneducated market.
matured. No, your market hasn't matured. It just started.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You can't. So the product isn't going to shine. Like what we see here in New York is a recreational dispensary finally opened, and that place has had a line around the corner
Just
for
like
2 weeks.
every
do you
other
think,
fucking
Do you
rec
think it's the
state.
most fire weed in New York there?
No, it's just like every other rec state.
So
Super mids.
Then if the product has to speak, then why is that speaking the loudest?
Okay, we'll talk about what I'm talking about in 2 years. That's all.
Because it's a new market, because we're an uneducated market, because a lot of New Yorkers have not gone to the West Coast
How much
to
how much
see
weed
what's really out there.
I have a question. How much weed do you think's being sold in the legal market compared to the black market that you don't see?
We're so off.
Well, I see
topic.
only the black market. I don't participate in the legal shit. So I see a lot.
lot.
And
Mike,
yes,
Hasho.
but you're talking about. No, go ahead.
I have no idea what the fuck you guys are talking about. I'm just
This is why I
excited
left
to
the East
hear
Coast,
this.
man.
What was the original? Okay, it was branding, packaging.
Yeah. Just go with it, Mike. You had
We're
something
talking
to
about
say.
branding.
You had something to say, bro.
Arguing.
Okay, so we were having our own separate conversation that I feel like
That shouldn't be allowed, by the way.
this one ran a bit long.
Lot, you know.
Not
And
encouraging.
like
You
a
know
New
about
York
the
subway
uneducated.
station, I got lost and had to transfer 4 times to stay. So, look, I don't know. Okay, please nobody take this with any disrespect.
He's going to say something offensive.
Yeah. Fully.
We just want to know where's the best weed you got
Fully.
here
No,
in New
here's the
York.
problem, okay? Like
California.
everything else, I feel like, okay, not like everything else. I feel like a lot of people in this room over the past 3 days even have been like, yo, your packaging's so sick. Where do you get your stickers done? Bro, who gives a fuck? No, I'm serious. Watch. Nobody in this room has ever smoked my hash. Impossible. I didn't bring any. Haven't made any. We live millions of miles away from each other. But somehow I'm respected in this room. It's because back to skateboarding and Supreme and certain cultures that have been so impactful for the real reasons. I never built Hasho or anything so long ago. I didn't know I was going to be legal or a brand or sell it to kids on the internet. I didn't fucking know. I'm such a fucking weirdo that worked to my advantage. So if I don't sell you me, if you don't fuck with me if when you hear my name 3 months, 6 months from now in another state, you're like, yo, that guy's dope, man. I met him here. He's hilarious. Or you're not gonna say he makes the best hash because you're a fucking liar. You've never changed my hash. And everybody in California makes better hash. You wanna know why? I'll kick the shit out of you in a lab. I promise you I'm as good as any producer you've ever tried. We will never catch up to you. We're 10 years behind in genetics. So I'm trying Ganja Gill. I'm trying all this shit going, holy fuck. Let's just appreciate that. Because I think he has the ugliest sticker in the world. What does it say? Ice wash? Some shit that looks like it was made on MS-DOS?
Ice Wook.
Ice what?
Yo, shout out Ganja Gill.
Shots fired.
Shout out Ganja Gill.
I don't know what I said that was funny that time. But that guy's
Prince.
shit is fucking fire. Air dried, fuck. I will not smoke a haze if you paid me. Never in my fucking life. I
Same.
swear to God. I can't.
Amsterdam Terps.
Whatever he washed and air dried is,
Fire.
I don't even know what they're on.
You
Whatever I
smoked
just
it, so you
did
just
is
lied.
like what my brain did. Like,
He lies and he steals. That's what he does.
That's the story. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I met this dude and he had dreads and fuck, he dressed so cool. Like I want to be like him. I don't know. I don't care. I have 2 kids to go home and raise. Fuck what you're doing tomorrow. But I hope it's great and you're happy and I fucking bless you, bro. Bless you. Bless you. But I don't have time once we leave here to, you know? So
So you're proving my point that
no,
good
100%.
hash,
Stop caring about
good
your
product
packaging.
speaks fucking volumes.
And good people speak volumes. Because when you're not here anymore and people meet your children, they need to say, yo, your dad was a fucking...
Yeah.
Bro, he's such
the
a good...
measure is this. If
But
you hand
he's an
someone a gram of
educated
hash to look
consumer.
at, your dream is that they don't want to give it back to you.
So
That's what you're trying to do. Like you want them to steal from you. That's what you want. Like you want it to be like I like when you see a little dog and you want to bite its face. Like it's fucking like this internal part of you that is like I have to steal this to fucking, you know, like I have it inside of me right now. Like that's what you're trying to create because again, good product fucking speaks volumes. I'm done. Like, fucking someone
so
else.
you know
We
it
do
wasn't
not bite
it
any
wasn't
dogs' faces in New York. That is not a thing for us.
So there's
nibbled
2
on many
listen,
dogs'
Let me
faces.
let me get in here. There's 2 conversations you're both having, and the thing is there neither one of you is wrong, but longevity-wise, you'll both be wrong. There's so many brands in the industry that had the fire product and they had the hype and they won the cups, but and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. I'm not going to name names, and a lot of us can probably put like 5 to 10 brands on this list. After a few years, if they didn't do anything else with their brand, if they didn't develop merch, if they didn't develop items, things that went along with their brand ethos, part of their lifestyle that approached whatever they're doing, because it's not just smoking. You know, we have pipes, we wear clothes, we drive cars, we have houses, we go on vacations, where you go, all of these things, you know, what music you listen to, all of that stuff is part of your brand ethos. And if you don't have a way of getting that out there, then people don't have a way of truly falling in love with your story. So the conversation we were having over here wasn't like a deep one. I know it's against the rules, but like what you guys were saying spawned a little kind of back and forth where you're both right and you're both wrong. And it's just about the whole like arc of your whole career. Do you want 3 years at the top and then people will move on to the next person at the top? Or do you want to be here forever? Because I want to do this shit for the rest of my life. You know, I don't want to there is no amount of money you're going to pay me and I'm going to stop. That's not happening, you know? I'm going to keep going no matter what it is. If it's art, if it's hash, I'll move on to the next shit, and it'll still be me that you're supporting. It's still my artwork that you're going after, whether it was hash and that was an artist. I was an artist then. So I feel like the kids wait in the Supreme line for mixed reasons. Some are in there to resell to the kids who pay hella money for the rare thing. But a lot of those people are in there because they're not cool. They are the kids who don't understand what cool
those
is.
lines.
They don't know what it is to be part of a culture. They're buying a ticket into that culture. They're doing the same thing with your jars. When somebody buys the homie Cash's jar, they're taking a photo of that Cash Tree Mason jar. I don't think I've ever seen anybody take photos of his weed, okay? Like 75% of the photos are his jar. And it's like, it's the kid probably smoked the weed. He already smoked that 2.5, that 3.5, whatever was pinched out of it before he got middled for $300. You know, like that kid is taking a photo of that black jar for a year and a half, flexing, getting his clout points, getting his clout tokens,
Sure.
making sure his Instagram is hot, making sure he's relevant. All of these things matter. It's not one is more important than the other. I want to make that clear. You know, the reason why I come to a lot of the hash makers and I say, let's do a project together. Let's make some stuff. I have people at Mood Mats. I have people that make blankets. I can do all these things. Let's make rugs. You know, let's do all this let's do art projects. Let's make ceramic plates. Fucking weird shit. Do whatever the hell you like to kind of do and buy and go in your own life and try to put that into your brand ethos. And if you're able to do that, it's not about making money, but merchandise can be a silent investor in your brand. If you have something cooking and you're always doing drops, if you want to do crazy projects, like you don't have to go ask an investor for money and deal with their bullshit. You can literally have t-shirts and mood mats and have things that you're selling and you go to pop-ups and it like pays for your gas, it pays for your bills, it pays for going back and forth, and it pays for the new products you're doing, you know? And so if you don't have that full rounded approach, you're not going to be here forever. I'm sorry to say it. You can be amazing product in a jar, and you might go through the problems that Brandon has gone through with Third Gen, where most people now know him for Ego Clash. They have not seen a jar of hash from him in years, okay? He got routed out of a system and he didn't get up on the shelves, and people like, you know, dissed him for that. And it's just, he didn't have that full, well-rounded approach, and when his brand was at its peak, he wasn't pushing enough merch and lifestyle stuff that when all of a sudden he went into a valley, he didn't have the money to withstand that. He couldn't ride out that storm. You know, you want to be able to have your brand last forever. You know, that's what I want to see is all these people in this room have a chance, whether it's getting absorbed by a bigger brand, but you're still able to be influential in the lab and have a job for the rest of your life. Like, answer yourself a real question when you look in the mirror. Do you want this shit forever, or is there a number someone's going to give you and you're going to be done? You know, like that will help you with what you need to do with your brand. And how hard you want to push into marketing if you think that it's garbage, or how hard you want to push into like getting a better product if marketing is the only thing you care about. You know, you have to have both. You know, it's like people in that Supreme line are there because of all the hard work of the story, not necessarily because they actually like that shirt. They want to be a part of a club. It was the same as sneakers. You want it to be like part of an inner culture. If I have a certain hash jar and I show up to a sesh, you know that I knew somebody to get that jar and that I knew about some good shit. So you might be more inclined to give me a better price on my 2 grams. You might be more inclined to like get my phone number, find out what my Instagram was, and we might be friends from that point on. And that's what's networking, you know? So like all of this shit matters. It's all connected, but you know, definitely don't stray off that. You have to have fire product. In New York right now, it almost doesn't matter, but at some point it will. It will. And it will. And the people who've cared about it the whole time, but also pushed forth with the memes, with the marketing, the fun stuff, and keeping part of all that we all love, those will be the winners, you know?
Yeah. But the other key thing is be genuine. Be yourself. Like, tell us who you are. You
For sure.
like Hasho because he's a fucking character. Like, and he can't not be that guy. And you're like, that's interesting. I want to see what the fuck else he's going to say. And that's like, you have that inside of you. Just be genuine. And I look at cannabis as like I look at comedy. And you got comedians and they have to go up in an open mic night and they have to suck and everyone has to think they're trash. And then they get better at not sucking. And it's the same fucking thing. Like, you learn techniques and you get better, but you develop as a person. But it's important to just remain genuine. Like, and if you're not cool, then your product can speak for itself and you can do it that way. But you have to just be who the fuck you are. You can't fake this shit because people are going to recognize
It'll come out.
It's going to come out that you're like...
You know, you can only be yourself.
Yeah, it's like shooting a porn. You have to have a giant cock. Like, it's not going to... It has to be a real cock. Like, you can't get in there and, like, put your leg in front of the camera and fake that that's your cock, right? So it has to be genuine and real.
How big is that microphone?
It's not that big, guys. It's fucking... You can sit next to me. Right? Like, but that's the... I mean, it's an analogy of like the bare honesty of what someone's showing you, and it has to be, I think, quality. You have to be genuine, or it's gonna run away from you, and you know.
I want to be clear. He's from Southern California. I'm from Northern California.
I'm not from Southern
it's like
California.
2 different worlds.
Adam, did you want to jump in?
I'm from Boston.
Okay. All right. Guys, we can take this anywhere you want. Do you have any questions that you want to ask any of these guys? Go for it, Tyler. jar side wraps. Great topic.
Lipstick on a pig.
I feel like when you like change them up too often, that gets tricky because then you don't like
Yes.
stick in anyone's mind. Like if you're constantly doing like new logos and new wraps, it's just like you get lost. Like what like Professor Sif does, I like where it's just the same top, the same side. The only thing that's different is the bottom. Because the side wrap
Yes.
is nice because it's like a tamper-proof seal basically, so you know no like wooks have been putting their nose too deep in there before you're smoking it.
Is it
so.
2 grams or 1.8? Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, you know, it was me, Sift and I had a lot of conversations about that when I made that logo for him. He was like, "Are you not going to put Professor Sift on it?" And I said, "You won't need to." And I think it was Legends of Hashish, the first one, you know, in LA, and I introduced him to Deppy. And Scott's like, "Oh, you're the Cloud Hash. I love your shit. I follow you." And like, you know, he looked at me and he was like, "I guess you were right." And I was
It
like,
works.
"The thing is, bro, if you change that rap too much, you're kind of looking weak to me. This is me personally. This is my opinion. You know, don't
You
get
look
offended.
insecure.
You do. You look like you feel the need to do something else. Like for me, it's like, well, I know what your brand is. The last jar I had from you was fire. Why does this one look so different? Like, what do you think that you did wrong that you needed to change this all up? Now, I understand some guys process an insane amount of flavors. And so that's different. You know, that's being authentic and doing a different jar for maybe each flavor. But even that gets a little crazy, man.
Yeah,
like
but Coca-Cola adds a
you know,
cherry
yeah, like,
to the can.
It's
you know,
something like, you know, if you look at the logo, it's like, can you do one of those cool time-lapse videos where the logo is exactly the same and kind of the rest of the picture changes as the you're watching that time-lapse and all the images are fastly changing behind it, but the logo is exactly the same. Like, to me, that's like what you're looking for. You know, like the side stuff can change. Putting the side jar wraps and all this stuff, you need those jar wraps. Like, it lets you know if someone's been tampering with it. That became like a kind of cardinal rule in our game, and that's just where we're going to go from this point. That's kind of how our culture's always been. Bring back the envelopes, Kaya, you know, like, but like the reason we moved on from that is because we moved on from that and someone proved that there was a better way to hold the hash potentially. You know, and everybody buys those Myron jars because somebody said we were supposed to. You know, so certain things like that, you kind of have to work within that construct. But yeah, man, the labels get too much. I feel like you're taking away from like what's inside that jar. Some markets, a little bit different. Maybe you need to do a little bit more of a show for it. Fair enough. Some you don't. But like I said, man, it's always that balance, you know, and try to have something where people actually recognize that jar from the last time they were at the sesh, you know?
100%. Adam, did you want to jump in?
I agreed with most of what you said. I was just gonna say, like, sort of like, if you like look at what we do, like our logo is like mostly the same, and we try to like just change like small things. Like we got the dripping version of our logo, like
Exactly.
The life is too short.
Like we could do a
mids.
time lapse with you and
Yeah,
Hannah
yeah.
shit, and it would be like a cool video of like the Mission Hill would just always be the same.
Yeah.
And like the stuff around it would kind
Keep
of
it
like,
like,
fit, yeah.
like grounded. I also think too, going back when you're starting to print all these different logos and stickers, it's like it adds up on your time, it adds up on your costs. Like we print all of our strain stickers, so I can print those on the fly in any quantity I want. If I needed a side wrap, I'd have to wait for my printing company, and hopefully I order the right amount, or I have to wait till everything's grammed up and order the exact amount. It's just like, it adds a lot of fucking trouble.
Spend that money on hoodies and mood mats and skate decks. Use the artwork for that.
Because that's also free advertising.
I love the artwork. Make more of it. You know, get a graphic designer that you're tight with, or, you know, do your own Photoshop shit if it works for you and people give you good feedback. But use all those crazy cool ideas for the other stuff. That is all part of your brand ethos, but understand that you need that one thing. Like Apple has the iPhone. You know, we know about that brand because of that fucking Apple on the little goddamn thing. And like, it always looks the same as much as everything around it changes. And you buy all the other fucking products and you support the brand on all this fucking shit, but they're never gonna fucking change the core. They might shift their logo here and there, that's fine, that's cool, but they're not gonna just like all of a sudden put out a triangle phone, you know, and then a circular phone. It's like gonna constantly be shifting and changing slightly around like the one core, you know?
Nike's the best one.
Yeah, the
Nike
swoosh.
is the best
swoosh.
example ever because then Travis Scott takes the swoosh and reverses it, and the fucking shoe. You know what I mean? It's like, still the swoosh. Yep, still the swoosh. It's just backwards, you asshole. Yeah, it's like looking in the mirror, but No, I honestly think that like there are key points in it. One of them is to remain simple, remain honest, have good product. It's just little tiny things that you have to do. But the other thing too is like Lot's saying, like if you're doodling and drawing shit, then put that stuff out. You have a story on Instagram. You can share as much as you want, and that's kind of going to help you understand. But I have a funny story about branding. I have an 18-year-old son, and he's a fucking heady boy. And, Supreme and whatever else. And I noticed for like 6 months, no, he fucking takes my Supreme hats. But I noticed for like 6 months, he had the same, I gave him some of the 710 pods when the rosin pods came out. And I gave him like 4 or 5 of them. And obviously that's not going to last 6 months. But after 6 months, he still had, and so those little lighter chains that you like put your lighter into? So they're the kids at his school, they like slide their vapor in there, and then they're like, ugh, and they like let it hang so everyone can see like what brand they're representing. And he had this empty fucking pod for like months. And I was like, I went to go hit it, and I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, oh, it's dead. And I'm like, why do you have it? And he's like, fucking clout, bro. Like, flexing. So it doesn't even have to have product in it, Just that it's there. And it's 710, and other kids are, oh, you have 710. So it's the same thing as the sneakers. So it doesn't even have to be anything in there, It's just that those kids and how they market is from that clout thing. It's like they want that attention, they get it. And it's just like we were, you walked in with like the Jordan 1s, and everyone's like, oh, shit, what's that? And for them, it's some stupid little fucking pod with 710 on it. That's all it takes, so... it's crazy. It blew my mind because I was kind of like, there's not even anything in it? Like, it's not even a fucking knockoff? Like, what do you mean? Yeah, it's a fucking empty jar.
Goes back to what, Mike was saying about the empty jar. Or you never see the weed, or...
Well, it's like when you look at a college student, or it's like you look at a college student's apartment back in the day, and they had all the beer cans, We're fucking collectors, man. Like, you can't get outside of it, so...
But the sad thing is that's going to come to a very abrupt end. And then
Give them
a
shit to
lot of
collect,
people, a lot of companies, a lot of West Coast alchemy... I didn't say that out loud. A lot of companies that have super dope branding-ish, when you start looking for that... When you start looking for the sincerity, the like, what is it other than a picture or a made-up story? Like,
but let's talk about that brand.
No, let's not.
No, let's talk about that brand, because that's a great conversation.
I don't give a fuck, but still, I don't want to
There's Trilogy, there's West Coast Alchemy, there's Feels Good. They're all really the same kind of brand, right?
You dined them out like that? Nobody else knew.
Hey, listen, it's okay.
I wasn't going to go there.
But I'm going to explain the detail about it, right? What you're not realizing is that brands from the trap market transition into the rec market. So when a brand does that, they have to have something else they don't want to give away their ability to trap in the black market. So then you bring another brand in, you start adding it into the box, and Bobby did a great job of that. And he's been able to show this brand ID for whether it's Trilogy, West Coast Alchemy, or Water Boys, or Feels Good. The truth is, those are not one company. They're owned by 4 different people, and they're 4 different brands, but their production and the material comes from maybe 8 or 9 grows, because the grows started getting smart. When the price starts dropping on flower and they're all battling to fucking sell it, they got smart and said, fuck this, let's grow hash strains, and they did. And a lot of these black market grows in California, and especially in LA, started throwing up 500 lights, all going to frozen, with none of it going. And then as they did that, now the melt's starting to come out of it because they selected strains that make better melt. And now you're seeing them but they're using 4 brands to do it with. And I'm not calling Bobby out. It's brilliant what he did, because it's a team. It's a community of these brands that all got together that said, here's a model that works. We have a distribution channel, because everybody knows here, you're not going to do any of this without a distribution channel. You have to have a network to sell product. You can go and get $100,000 of the best fucking shit and not know where to sell it, and you're going to get dollared down and fucked if you're not in the right place. So you need a network. Bobby has all those things, and they built those brands. And it's easy from the outside to look at it and be like, these brands have no fucking soul, right? Because there's nobody coming to an event and giving you free Trilogy, West Coast Alchemy, 710. You have to buy it. It's fucking $70 wholesale, unless you buy 2 pounds, and then you can maybe get it down to 55 or 60 bucks. But it flips that way. I don't hate brands like that. I actually have a shitload of respect for them because there's a lot of work going on in there to organize and coordinate and build that whole fucking thing. And I recognize that work and I know what it takes. And I see that when you look at those brands, they have 5 distributors. That's it. There's only 5 motherfuckers that can go in there and get that product. So if you're getting it from somebody, it's coming. So he has a really tight network and he just controls the supply of shit. And that's what that is. It's everywhere. There's not a fucking
Can I
state.
interrupt you for a sec?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you get insanely nice packaging, and then you open it and you're like, yo, that was fucking fire. Nice to meet you. That shit is crazy. So that's all I had to say. Sometimes you get both.
Because sometimes when I open up Trilogy or West Coast Alchemy, I do have that feeling. But when you look at Small Circle and Hanzo, and you look at CJ and that whole group, that's like a group that's led by a leader. You know, there's a guy there that really has a vision, that understands what he's doing, that built an amazing team, and now he's like bringing that out to the public, all at its own pace and how it grows, not overly. Like, you know, I mean, I can look at Victor now. I know how their team works and what they do, and it's genius, but it's based on very fucking quality product.
And so here's the thing. I don't want to sound like I'm saying like, oh, nice jars are gonna. There's gonna be a day where nobody's gonna give a fuck. Look, Tiffany's, Louis Vuitton, like we're still eating dog shit wrapped in canvas for thousands of dollars. It's not like it's high-end leather and you just bought your wife something you're gonna pass down to your children in 10 years. That bag ain't making it 10 years. It's gonna crack in like fucking 3 months. But the thing is, first of all, that was insanely good. I seriously, like super good.
If you haven't tried Hanzo's, you should fucking definitely try.
But here's the thing, like you're always gonna run into, at the end of the day, maybe it's because I come from skateboarding, maybe it's because I come from Canada and there's literally just so little ways to define, but it's like skateboarding, and we were talking, it's all a piece of wood. You can go to a shop anywhere in the fucking world. You're buying a piece of wood. They're literally all the same dimensions almost. You're buying it because you fuck with that dude or one dude on the team, or like certain companies made their living off being pissed drunks. Like horrible bags of shit, pile
DGK.
outs. Oh no, I mean
Dirty
there was a
Ghetto
company
Kids.
called Piss Drunks.
Yeah, I know.
And they legit were fucking piles. They sold millions of dollars. They were just genuinely being who the fuck they were, right? So I'm not hating on good packaging. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to make cool packaging. But everything that's ever blown me away, and I've left knowing that person for the rest of my life, was because I opened a jar. That was a nameless jar yesterday at that sesh. It was a big brown jar. I'll never forget that dab. We've now bonded over that dab. That grower, that producer is now Ganja Gill. I didn't know who that was. I will forever. I don't know who you are. I will forever.
Welcome to America.
But that's the thing, like, this isn't like something competitive. Like, I'll wear a shoelace for the rest of my life. Some people are gonna laugh and be like, what the fuck? Some people are gonna be like, I bet you he skated. Some people are gonna be like, I bet you he's been to jail. But hold up. That's where that all came from. That, like, you can't wear a belt and jump down 15 stairs all day with a big buckle and chip your hip bone, fucking blah, blah, blah. Also, you can't wear a belt in jail. Also, hip-hop culture. Also, Nike SB is worn by rappers, hip-hop. Like, there's no, this is the way. Like, who cares how long you soak your material? Who gives a fuck how long your runs are? Who gives, like, maybe I just suck at doing what I do, but I don't suck at being a person.
But how do you boil that back to the individual, to the makers sitting in this room, going, okay, well,
just
on these,
be yourself.
Yeah.
Like, let us know who you are. Like,
That's
tell
it.
us who you are.
But no, don't roll your eyes, because look, I'm a polarizing person. A lot of these people are
Well,
going to
maybe
be
you're
like,
weird.
dude, that guy's
Fucking
full
be
of
weird.
shit.
Like,
fuck him. And that's cool too. But some of these people are going to be like, yo, the Canadian dude was dope. And they still never tried my hash. But let's say they come to Canada. They're going to be like, yo, remember the weird dude from fucking Jameson's? We got to find his shit.
yeah. Well, they're chasing a personality. Like, Look at Brandon from Third Gen. He's the perfect example. He's like, I love Brandon, but he's a bit obtuse. He's like fucking yelling in your face and fucking all crazy, and you're like, what the fuck, dude? But everyone loves it, right? Like look at Legends and Ego Clash. Everyone loves it, right? Like look at Legends and Ego Clash. Like Ego Clash is like take your shirt off with your jar and fight in the parking lot. And it's fucking awesome. It's the greatest thing, I think. And Brandon's in a cave, fucking like screaming, and there's fucking rocks falling on your head. Like, that's badass, dude. That's fucking punk rock, bro. That's hardcore. And I love that. But you can go to that, or you can come and eat prime rib at Legends. You can do both.
Shout out Brandon for disqualifying Hash. I don't know any other event that's done that.
No, it's the
That's
dude.
part of who he is. So I feel like that's another thing, you know. You got Hasho saying, like, be yourself, be true to yourself. You don't want to be like a complete jerk, but if you can look yourself in the mirror and say, like, I might be a little bit of a jerk, like, how do I make that work in my advantage? And
Ego
how
Clash
do
is
I,
like fat camp,
how do
too.
I develop, like, how do I develop all of the things that I am into, like, a fun event that people want to go to, you know? I feel like it's easy to, like, make a couple quick jokes and, like, you know, say we know everything about a brand or say we all know everything about marketing, but the truth is we're all up here still trying to figure it out too.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that you all have to keep in mind. Like, it's like
I have posts with 8 likes. I know what the fuck this is
no,
about.
there's no like end all be all answer to this shit, but you know, if you don't kind of at least know like which way the wind blows, you're never going to know when the weather's coming, you know? And so I feel like some of the things out here is really about analysis, looking at what everybody else is doing, not copying, but seeing what you like, what you see other brands doing. Get away from just following hash companies, okay?
Yes.
Get away from just following weed
Follow
companies.
some architecture.
You go to events. You see each other everywhere. Don't just spend all of your other time looking at what each of you is doing. Look at other brands. Look at artists. Look at major corporations, if you will, and at least know the things you don't want to be. You know the things that like you definitely don't want to have your brand end up as. That's going to help you be a little bit more true to yourself. And as you see things developing within your own brand, if you don't like where they're going, you're the only one that can change that shit. And if you're not trying to keep true to like who you are and like what you stand for, you know, like you're going to get wrapped up in somebody else's kind of winning project and how they got their brand off, and it might not work for you, you know. So it's like listen to what we're saying, but also like it worked for us, you know, and it may not work exactly the same for you. And you know, like there's people proving you wrong every day, but at least know what else is going on in your scene, your community, and other communities that you can tell are coming into this one, investing money, trying to form brands, whether it's the music industry or it's extreme sports, you know, it's streetwear or it's sneaker people, you know, all of these different kind of collectible artists getting into brands and working out and putting their art on jars, you know. All of those things matter to know what those people are doing, because what their angle is going to help you figure out yours, you know.
Can I make one random comment?
Go for it.
Also, if you care about your brand, if you are a brand, if you are a producer, etc., working on hash, working on skills, working on all that is amazing. You have to. It's like being an athlete and working on your trade. But you know what else is really cool? Working on social skills. The way you fucking... No, I'm serious, bro. The way you leave or enter a conversation. Okay, I don't know if maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but that's not going to surprise anybody. Stop saying the homie. He's not your homie. If you don't have his phone number, if you can't call him right now and make the introduction, that weakens, because look, this is a small fucking industry. I'm going to go back to the fact that I'm a Canadian. You've never tried my hash, but if you were to G-check me, resume check, or call California, or call New York, or whatever, they're going to be like, no, he's good. Why? That means way more than even a good run of hash. Because everybody in this room, the top producers, you put us in a room together with the same material, it's going to be a war, right? I hope you all feel the same way. I'm going to win. I hope you're looking at me. No, I am. But I hope you're looking. No, I'm serious. But I hope you're looking at me. I hope you're looking at me going, let's go. It's
You
terrible.
have to have an ego.
No, but
That's what it takes.
that's the thing. Like, I don't give a fuck if you're better than me. Share it with me.
I
But
think what he's getting at too is that like loving kindness goes a long fucking way.
bro, who
Like,
you are goes way further than your last run. And the way you approach people, the way lying about, not even lying, exaggerating, bro, it all good. This room, you have 10 friends that you're gonna go tell how much of a weirdo I am. They have 10 friends that are gonna, it's in 24 hours, your lie is, that's not my homie. You know how many times I've heard, that's not my homie? Met him once. Who you are speaks way more than your product. Because if you're a grower, if you're a hash maker, listen real careful. You're a sixth man in the NBA. If your team wins a ring, you're lucky you got to sit on the bench. You didn't grow that shit. You didn't breed that shit. You didn't harvest that shit. And if you did, you're not in this conversation because you're the guy doing everything in the cycle. I'm a bitch. I'm a producer. I don't grow. I'm at the mercy of the real talent. If you work hard enough and you're stubborn enough, you can learn to do what I do. But you can't learn to do what those 1% growers do. And I don't know how the fuck they do it. I don't know why we all appreciate them so much. I've heard nothing but amazing things about elephant grow. You can't buy that. I don't care who your dad is, how much money you have. Repeat that. I have no idea what you said. Okay, you can't buy history. You can't buy. Yes, you can't buy history. You can't buy lineage, and you can't buy people speaking good on your name. So maybe
you can't buy integrity.
You can't buy integrity. So learn maybe, even if you're the best grower, whatever in the room, social skills are super important. And I think panels like this need to touch more on it's great that you can shoot a basketball or make hash, but if you can't hold a conversation, people just aren't going to want to work with you. If you're a liar, people are going to figure that shit out. Yeah. And
in simple
anyways,
words,
I don't know if that matters,
just
but
don't be a cunt. That's pretty much what it comes down to. You don't have, just because you make great hash doesn't mean you have to be a fucking asshole about it. Because I posted the other day, nothing's worse than a good hash made by a shitty person. Nothing's fucking worse. I'll leave the jar on the table. That kind of negates everything at that point. Because A, I don't want to fucking support that asshole, first of all. And then B, I don't want that motherfucker seeing me like his shit and then tell someone like he's saying that I'm his fucking homie. I'm not your homie. If we know each other, then I'll support your brand. But if you're a fucking dick and you treat your employees like shit and you're constantly talking bad about other makers I'm joking about Brandon. Me and Brandon are actually friends. But when you attack other people and don't realize that makes you look like shit, you're fucking lost at that point. So be honest, have integrity, run with loving kindness, and that makes, because that's really what draws people to you in the first place. That you can carry a conversation, you're articulate, they can talk to you, and you might have some information that they can use, and you can help each other out. Nothing burns me more than when you see a maker who's got someone carrying his fucking rig, and he's comes in the room, and you're like, oh, and sure the guy sells out and everyone buys the hash, but does he really love himself? That's the question. That's what I wonder. Does he really love himself?
It's what works for glass makers. All the pipe makers that you all follow, we could go down that road. What made everybody pay $50,000 and $60,000 for a Quave
80
Klein? What was the reason? And there was a little conversation one time where it was Mickelson on one side, Quave on the other, and Combo. And Mickelson's why do people pay so much for your pipes? And Kevin really didn't know how to answer the question. And Calvin looks at him and he's like, I got this one. And he's like, this kid can walk into any room and out-smoke everybody in the room, find the best hash in the room, leave with an ounce of it, and tell every pipe maker in that room his physics on how he made the up and the down and why a recycler needs to be this percentage up and this percentage down. And you all smoke a lot of fucking pipes that are ripping off of his tech. And it's not just because he's the most skilled pipe maker that ever lived. And this is He's a good friend. I'm not dissing him at all, but he is not the best pipe maker that ever lived, but he's the best at a lot of things. And the fact that he is that dude that can tray flip down a set of 10 stairs and come into the room and make a pipe and then go play the lead solo to any Led Zeppelin track. The guy is, he's an amazing musician, he's an amazing artist, and that story is why you bought the pipe for that much money. And that story is why every fucking pipe maker has made a fucking recycler except for like Nate Myers. And like everybody else has gone and made some kind of a recycler. And you know, a lot of that was learned at Mothership and it comes from his lineage and his story, but they're not buying it because that pipe is more, you know, technically skilled than the pipe that's 10K sitting next to it that was, you know, hours and hours and hours were spent on it, and Kevin whipped his up in a couple days. And you know, it's the story, it's all of it, and it's that person being true to themselves when they walk in that room and everybody's like, oh my God, Quave's here, oh my God, Quave Glass is here. And like the whole kind of like the whole like the rumor mill about like who some of these guys are.
He's French, right?
Yeah, it's, you know, it's Quave, but people don't know it.
Like Target.
You know, and so the stories and all the kind of things that will go around, like Kevin is the homie. You mentioned the phrase homie. That became a joke in this whole industry, that everybody knew Kevin, because it was like Kevin is the homie. Oh, I know his real name. You know, and it's, but all of that, the whole thing is really like he stayed true to himself. He smokes a shit ton of hash, and most of us can tell a pipe maker that actually smokes hash. You rip that thing, and I'm not going to do anybody's names dirty.
I mean,
but there are people,
Eugene doesn't smoke hash. He will, but not.
But Eugene has Adam G.
racks.
But Eugene has Adam G. in the corner screaming at him.
Yep.
This up and down is not working. And
Well, he has, yeah.
Yeah, and he has. He's literally been like, you need to do this and that. And so, you know, those kind of things. But then Yush like the homie with all of those guys, and he is an example of all of their work together in a sense. And so we're paying for those things. You know, people buy your brand. There may be hash that sells for $65, there may be hash that sells for $85, hash that's selling for $45, and people in this room that would sell everything in their freezer back in Humboldt for $40 a gram right now if you offered it to them. But there are reasons why each of those numbers exists. And there's a thing about if you don't have enough of your story out there, there isn't enough of a reason for me to invest into it. I don't know what I'm paying for, you know? And there's hash. I can get hash from everybody in this room, okay? And it's all gonna be fire. But there's gonna be somebody in this room who sells out first every time, you know? And there's gonna be somebody who sells out last often and then can't figure out why. And then the dude comes and goes, I'll buy all your melt, and then press it and put it in the jar with his sticker. And so there's just a lot of these things that go on, but if you don't really have like a full rounded like understanding of what you want, what your brand ethos is, what you actually want to be, you're gonna get lost in all of that, you know? And if you want and you focus all your energy on one thing, you might miss out when the other stuff comes to matter, you know? So like just to keep bringing it back to that, like yes, be true to yourself. Don't just do what everybody else is doing. Figure out the stuff that works for you. Have fun with it. It's supposed to be fun. Like you're supposed to be laughing in that room when you come up with the t-shirt idea or the stickers or whatever. You know, like the reason why I put stuff out there is because I really thought it was funny and I laughed at my own joke, you know, and like probably some of my friends might like it too, you know? So like keep that kind of like fun nature about it and find out like who the fuck you are. You know who you are. You can't lie to yourself. Yeah, well that's it. If you don't know, then go find out. That's a really, probably the first thing you need to know is like who you are and what you want that brand to be. You know, because if you're just out here like, I love hash, so I want to have a job in the industry so I can keep smoking hash. That's okay. But it will help, if you keep doing it, you find your way to like an actual, I want to be this. I want to actually be a farmer for resin. I don't want to just make hash. I actually want to start breeding because I want more control over what I'm getting. All of that stuff, man, it matters. And if it's going to take you 5 to 10 years, so what? It'll be a really good 5 to 10 years. Even if it's ups and downs, it's building your brand, and then that's your story. You know, so like if you feel like you might not have a story, you're wrong. All of you have a story. Everybody's got like a whole history of what brought them here. You know, hone in on that. You know, focus in on what that is. Everybody should try to go home and write a bio on yourself. It sounds funny, but if you don't have a resume, even as a hash maker, as a pipe maker, just in your head, even if it's just in your head, like who you've worked with, who you've worked for, who can reference your fucking shit. It chimes back on what you were saying. Like, are there people out there who know me? You know, like I don't need to be the guy who knows everybody, but everybody knows me kind of thing. Like, you want to be out there enough where people know your work. That kid told 10 kids, they told 10 kids. Yes, focus on like exactly what you do, who you are is like more important, you know, and what you do is just kind of like this side thing to like who you are and what you're trying to like create as a lifestyle and an ethos for yourself. Your brand will follow, you know?
Guys, give it up for the marketing panel. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. That was fucking awesome. All right, so coming up, we have the raffle to reward you for following directions and holding on to your ticket. The new ticket you got yesterday. So we might have to pull a couple times.